Hobart may look calm on the surface, but beneath its charm lies a haunted past. From ghostly prisons to cursed bridges, these are the top 10 haunted places in Hobart where the dead are never truly silent. 1. Port Arthur Historic Site. They said no one ever leaves Port Arthur the same. Nestled in the eerie quiet of southern Tasmania, this former penal settlement carries more than just history. It breathes with the restless spirits of its past. Once home to the most hardened criminals in Australia, its stone walls have soaked up over a century of pain, violence, and despair. It was late October when a guide named Michael was locking up the separate prison for the night. As he turned off the final corridor light, a whisper echoed, "Don't leave me here." Thinking it was a prank, he searched the entire wing. It was empty. He reported feeling a sudden pressure on his chest, as if someone was standing on it. He never returned to that wing again. Visitors still speak of shadow figures darting across cell block 3, or a child's laughter in the dark near the parsonage, a place where a reverend was once found hanging without explanation. Some even claim to feel cold hands gripping their wrists when they stand alone near the gallows. Port Arthur isn't just haunted, it remembers, and it waits for those brave enough to walk its grounds after dark. 2. Willow Court Asylum, New Norfolk. By daylight, Willow Court looks abandoned. But once the sun slips behind the hills of New Norfolk, this crumbling asylum seems to wake up. Originally built in 1827, it was home to Tasmania's most vulnerable, those society cast aside. And some say, never truly let go. A former nurse named Elaine shared a chilling tale. In Ward C, where violent patients were once restrained, she heard a loud banging, rhythmic, relentless. But when she checked, the wing was empty. The doors were still locked. Moments later, she swore she saw a shadow crawl along the ceiling, then vanish through a closed door. Paranormal teams have since recorded EVP sessions filled with screams, groans, and one unmistakable word: help. Motion sensors trigger in rooms with no electricity. Cold spots appear, even in midsummer. Locals avoid walking past after dark. They whisper about a man in a straitjacket, seen staring from the second-floor window, though that room has been sealed for decades. Willow Court doesn't just echo with the past, it holds it, and sometimes it reaches out. 3. Hobart Convict Penitentiary. Beneath the quiet streets of Hobart lies something far darker: the Hobart Convict Penitentiary, where over 40 men were executed and buried in unmarked pits beneath the prison floor. But not all of them, it seems, found peace. A tourist on a ghost tour once fainted in the execution chamber after claiming he saw a man in leg irons standing behind the guide, silent, staring. The CCTV footage later revealed nothing, but a loud iron clang was captured on audio, though no metal chains were present in the room. The underground tunnels, once used to transport prisoners to the Supreme Court, are known to echo with disembodied footsteps. Cold air rushes past like breath. Lights flicker, and the temperature drops by 10 degrees in seconds. Staff report a tall figure in a dark coat who appears at the end of the hallway and disappears when approached. Some say he was a hangman. Others believe he's one of the condemned, still awaiting justice. At the Hobart Convict Penitentiary, time has stopped, and the dead refuse to be forgotten. 4. Battery Point. At first glance, Battery Point feels charming. Cobblestone lanes, historic cottages, and sea breeze drifting in from the harbor. But beneath its postcard, beauty lies a spine-chilling truth. This neighborhood is haunted by the ghosts of its colonial past. Locals often speak of a woman in a black Victorian dress, who glides silently down Kelly's steps at dusk. She never looks up, never speaks. But one man, a visiting historian, followed her out of curiosity, only to watch her vanish mid-step. His camera froze, the footage corrupted. At Arthur's Circus, children have been heard giggling in the dead of night, though no one lives there with kids. A retired couple once reported hearing knocks on their bedroom window, 3 sharp taps, every night at 3:00 a.m. When they opened the shutters, nothing. But the handprints remain. Residents swear the spirits here aren't malevolent, but they are restless. And those who walk these streets alone after midnight often say the same thing. They feel like they're being watched, and they're never alone. 5. Theatre Royal. Behind the velvet curtains and golden balconies of Theatre Royal, Australia's oldest working theatre, a silent performance unfolds night after night, and the audience isn't always human. For over a century, actors and crew have spoken of Fred, a former stagehand believed to have died in the 1800s. He's said to roam the backstage corridors, adjusting lights, shifting props, and whistling an old tune no one can identify. One actress claimed that just before her solo, she felt a cold hand touch her shoulder, and then a whisper, "Good luck." Security footage once showed a seat in row D folding down and springing back up, though the theater was empty, locked from the outside. During a rehearsal, lights on stage turned blood red and pulsed rapidly. The control board unplugged. Visitors often report feeling sudden chills in the dress circle or catching fleeting glimpses of a man in suspenders and caps standing in the wings. Fred doesn't harm, but he reminds that in Theatre Royal, some spirits never take their final bow. 6. St. David's Park. Tucked quietly in central Hobart, St. David's Park is a peaceful green space by day. But few know it was once the city's first burial ground, and not all the dead were moved when it was turned into a park. In 1996, during renovations, workers unearthed bones just inches below the soil, remnants of graves long forgotten. Since then, strange things have stirred. At dusk, a jogger reported seeing a pale woman in 19th century dress standing beneath an old elm tree. She stared blankly, then vanished. At night, footsteps echo across the grass when no one's around. People feel cold spots, hear soft weeping near the old memorial arch, and claim to be overcome with nausea when standing on the original burial plots, now unmarked. Local legend speaks of a grieving mother buried without her child. Her spirit is said to wander the grounds searching, whispering, "Where's my baby?" to anyone who dares walk alone after dark. St. David's Park may look serene, but beneath the roots and roses, the dead still stir. 7. Cascades. Female Factory. Behind high sandstone walls on the outskirts of Hobart lies a place soaked in sorrow. Cascades Female Factory, where thousands of convict women were imprisoned, punished, and forgotten. But some say their cries still echo through the stone. In Yard 1, a guide once heard soft sobbing during a school tour. Thinking a child had strayed, she turned to look, but no one was there. Moments later, the sobbing turned into a blood-curdling scream that silenced the entire group. A sudden chill swept through the yard, though the summer sun blazed overhead. Paranormal investigators have recorded unexplained cold pockets, flickering shadows, and even a whisper caught on audio. "They took my baby." That voice is believed to belong to one of the many women whose infants died within the prison's nursery walls. Visitors report being watched, touched, even pushed when standing near the solitary cells. Some leave in tears, overcome with dread they can't explain. At Cascades, the punishment is long over, but for some, the suffering has never ended. 8. Royal Tasmanian Botanical Gardens. Lush, vibrant, and full of life. The Royal Tasmanian Botanical Gardens seems the last place you'd expect to find a ghost. But hidden among its manicured beauty lies a buried past, quite literally. Long before it became a garden, part of this land served as a quiet burial site for colonial settlers. Some graves were never marked, others simply forgotten. Groundskeepers have whispered of seeing a pale man in a long coat drifting through the fern house, only to vanish when followed. In 2008, a night shift worker reported lights flickering wildly in the visitor center. When he checked the security feed, every camera showed static, except one. It captured the silhouette of a woman in old-fashioned mourning attire standing completely still beneath the rose arch. Visitors have described sudden temperature drops, the scent of decaying flowers where none grow, and a strange, heavy feeling, as if someone is grieving nearby. In this garden of life, the dead have roots too. 9. New Norfolk, Derwent Valley. New Norfolk may seem like a sleepy riverside town, but as night falls, its quiet charm gives way to a chilling presence. Locals say the entire Derwent Valley is laced with spirits, most of them tied to one place, Willow Asylum, whose shadow still haunts the town. One resident, a cafe owner, closed late one night when she saw a woman in a hospital gown standing across the street, barefoot, motionless. When she turned back after locking the door, the street was empty. No footsteps, no trace. In nearby homes, lights flicker without reason. Dogs bark at corners where nothing stands. Families report hearing tapping on their windows, always 3 knocks, then silence. Paranormal teams claim New Norfolk has one of the highest concentrations of unexplained activity in Tasmania. There's a heaviness in the air, a feeling that something watches from behind the trees, from under the ground, from inside your walls. In New Norfolk, you don't have to enter Willow Court to feel it. The darkness has already spread. Richmond Bridge, Richmond. By day, Richmond Bridge is a tranquil heritage site, Australia's oldest stone bridge, standing proud since 1825. But by night, it becomes something else entirely, a place whispered about in fear. They say the ghost of George Grover, a brutal prison overseer, still haunts the archways. He was thrown from the bridge to his death by convicts he once tortured. Since then, countless passers-by have reported feeling sudden icy gusts, even on windless nights. One teenager cycling home swore he saw a figure in old military uniform standing under the arch. When he turned back, the man was gone. But his bike chain snapped, and he was thrown hard to the ground. Locals say George doesn't like to be watched. Ghost hunters have picked up growling EVPs and recorded unexplained cold spikes near the water's edge. Some tourists have fainted while walking across, overcome with vertigo and dread. Richmond Bridge may be made of stone, but beneath it flows a river of unfinished business. Still think Hobart is just a peaceful port town? Think again. These chilling spots prove the past is never really buried, and sometimes it watches you back. Which haunted place would you dare to visit at night?